What is up, guys? It's your boy Big Papa Houndish, back to 360 no scope some dregs in patrol. I'd probably miss. I couldn't hit an elephant with a frickin' outbreak perfected. But some folks say I do an acceptable job delivering Destiny news. I'll take whatever accolades I can get. We're back with a few updates from Bungie right here, including disabled loot, plenty of fixes and future fixes for the game, which has been a massive point of discussion really, hasn't it? Also, we'll talk about a few interesting Easter eggs in the game, further discussion on the next expansion coming in December, reward previews for Ash and Iron, just a couple of things we'll be getting access to once that update drops, as well as Bungie's battle against cheaters, and a handful of other things to round up today. So if you guys enjoy this one, don't forget to 360 no scope that like button, or indeed subscribe. But for now, cheers for tuning in, and let's get into it. Few brief heads up right here. Liar's Handshake is still disabled inside of the Crucible because the cross counter perk could be activated by all damage sources. And while Bungie have further improvements to Crucible that they want to make, as outlined here, the issue where tier 5 gear wasn't dropping at 450 power has also been resolved. And separately, Bungie are responding to feedback regarding Trials, reward tiers from the Flawless chest, and generally the fact that Trials rewards have actually gone a little bit backwards versus the update that we had last season in episode Heresy, where they made it incredibly rewarding to play. For the moment, DMG says the team is working through the feedback, and indeed to keep it coming. I feel like a lot of stuff is kind of riding on the Ash and Iron update, making a handful of improvements. Hopefully that will be the case, and given that it's only just over a couple of weeks away at this point, we should be getting more info about that soon, so keep it locked and loaded here if you want to be kept up to date. Bungie are also further investigating mobility issues, this time not with base stats on mobility, but enhancements from mods like Enhanced Athletics, which is giving less mobility than it should, and even lightweight weapons getting less mobility than they should be. Bungie have said the team is aware and are working on a fix for a future update, so again, hopefully we'll get more information about that soon. Next up though, some things related to this week very briefly. Of course, we got the patch on Tuesday, which had a few small fixes, although Bungie haven't made any of the adjustments to sort of power leveling, solo mythic Kepler stuff and all of that, which I'm seeing a lot of comments about. We might get them in the next couple of weeks, but it does seem possible we're going to have to wait until September with Ash and Iron. I'll keep you guys posted, but one thing we do get this week is the special surge modifier. So this increases special damage and ammo drops in portal activities, and the damage increase, well, it's essentially double, so it is actually fairly significant. Definitely not a replacement to Solstice and the reward grind that was available there, but if you're continuing to play the game, having double damage on specials is obviously pretty good, especially if you're looking at things like Mint Retrograde. And the fact that we've got things like the Temporal Blast seasonal mod right now, which provides slightly different damage bonuses depending on which weapon you're actually using. For Mint Retrograde, it's essentially a 34% DPS increase. Definitely don't sleep on Temporal Blast if you want to know in depth how that mod actually works and affects different weapons. I'll link a very good video from Aegis Relic down below, as Temporal Blast itself is pretty busted. A side effect of the special surge thing though, for players who want to rank up from Guardian rank 7 to 8, there is an objective where you have to use the famine modifier. This can be special or heavy ammo famine, but it would appear that Bungie have actually disabled the famine modifier while the special surge is active. So as it stands, there are a lot of players who can't get to Guardian rank 8 this week. Bungie have recognized this and have said, we understand you're unable to access the famine modifier. We can confirm that this is intended due to the special surge being live. You should, however, be able to use famine again next week when the surge ends. So a bit of an oversight there, probably, I guess, from Bungie, that it essentially blocks progression for a lot of players. And I imagine, in terms of Guardian rank 7s and 8s right now, that's going to be a fairly large number of people who will want to get to Guardian rank 8. So I totally get the frustration. One thing that might be worth looking out for is whether famine might show up on any of the sort of daily rotators, the quick play options that actually have fixed modifiers. It's possible that Bungie will still allow one of those activities to actually get famine. There isn't one available for the first reset of the week, but I would keep an eye out over subsequent daily resets just in case. Another thing to keep in mind if you're finding that your reward scores are lower, we did lose the Portal Score Accelerator and some of the boosts that the Solstice mods were actually given to Portal scores. So technically it might be the case that we actually need to run slightly more difficult activities than what we were last week in order to get the same reward scores. So an additional mention worth keeping in mind right there. I totally get it though, for players who are finding rewards a bit lackluster now that Solstice has concluded. Yeah, that's definitely the case. The event did give us a pretty big boost to reward tiers and general incentive to continue the power grind. It did didn't really affect the power climb massively in itself, but more than anything, it was the incentive that there would be higher tier rewards there. So as I've said before, I think Bungie need to do more of this and actually bake more of that kind of reward potential into the general power climb, but no point in repeating myself right now, I guess. Either way, give me your thoughts about that. I'd also forgot that on top of us getting the Ash and Iron content in a couple of weeks, Bungie do say they've got a reveal coming for Renegades where we're going to get a much better in-depth look at the expansion content, which will certainly be interesting. It's looking like we will return to Mars, based on a bunch of lore that we've discussed recently. And this is further supported by the fact that Bungie refer to Edge of Fate having a new destination, called Kepler of course, while Renegades gets a new game mode called Lawless Frontier. Mars appears to be where it will actually be based, but especially given that the exploration component of Kepler didn't quite hit the mark, or at least wasn't as appealing as it should be in terms of rewards, I definitely hope there is still an exploration element to Lawless Frontier, as opposed to it just being a seasonal activity type thing, which I'm sure Bungie will offer something a bit more substantial than that for an actual expansion, but it does pose some interesting questions, so I guess many of them will be answered on September 9th when we get that big reveal. Let us know if you're looking forward to it. There were some funny comments on Reddit though. You will go to Mars again, and you will like the red sand. It's like the voice of Bungie in the back of your head, isn't it? In Ash and Iron though, we'll also get this raid update where more loot will be introduced and tier 5 gear from the raid will start actually being obtainable, albeit from pretty difficult versions of the raid. One of the new items that'll be introduced, which is supposed to be hidden at the moment, but it's the new Sparrow, and it's actually visible in the API. It's one of the only things that we can currently see. But Bungie had said there'll be a catalyst for the raid exotic as well as new weapons and things, which is interesting, so I look forward to seeing that. It also occurred to me that if the new gear bonus does indeed stick around, then I wonder if that will apply to the raid in the same way, given that the raid will only start getting tier 5 drops about 3 months before we actually get into Renegades. And if that's the case, it's interesting because while none of the old raid content is currently relevant in the game, if indeed Bungie remove the new gear bonus from raid gear as well, it will mean that within 3 months of Desert Perpetual getting its best gear, it'll also become irrelevant, and that will mean that every piece of raid content is not up to sort of relevant reward scores in the game by the time we get to December, which is certainly an interesting problem. As I've said before separately though, I hope sincerely that Bungie ditch the whole new gear concept, at least with regards to it making stuff we're obtaining right now less relevant when we get to Renegades. I don't think that's going to be a good thing. And I'd say it's in the top 5 things that Bungie should strongly consider changing tact on. But you'll have to give me your thoughts down below. Otherwise, on top of new cheat detections being introduced into Destiny last week, Bungie's multi-year lawsuit against Destiny 2 Ring 1 cheats continues, and that legal battle has got even more interesting, with allegations against a marketplace platform, and the director of that firm sitting on a $12 million Bitcoin stash, reportedly, as the yield from this cheat development activity, I suppose. So, pretty crazy stuff, really. I guess Bungie maybe see the potential of tapping into that prize pool of cash that they've made from cheats, not only regarding the Destiny title, but I'm sure there are plenty of other titles affected by it as well. I'll link a full article down below if you want to look into more details about that, but for today, guys, that's what we've got to talk about. If you found this video useful, a rating very much helps us out down below. I think the next couple of twids may be worth paying a bit more attention to, because Bungie hopefully will start to outline specific things that will come with Ash and Iron in terms of progression changes and rewards and stuff. But that's one of the biggest complaints about the game in the minute, so if you want to keep locked in for that, hit subscribe and the notification bell. That way you'll get all of the details as soon as they drop. For today though, thank you for watching, and whatever you get up to, I will catch you guys very soon.